Windsor's auto sector revs up for the EV revolution. See how some local manufacturers are looking down the road and shifting gears. An elderly man is dead after a hit and run early this morning. Now police are investigating and they're asking for any footage of the incident. A live look outside. We've had a bit of rainfall throughout the day, and tonight we're going to see some heavy rainfall, though it's not expected to be severe. Colette Kennedy will be here later in the program with more. Good evening, I'm Katerina Georgieva. We begin tonight with breaking news of major changes coming to the city's largest employer. Stellantis, the company that owns the Windsor Assembly Plant, says the plant will be going down to one shift in the spring of 2022, and that will mean the loss of hundreds of jobs. Our Chris Ensing is on this story and joins me now live in studio. Chris, what more can you tell us about this announcement?
Hey, Kat, just a devastating blow here again for Windsor Essex's automotive community. Now, this will be a big blow to the Windsor Assembly Plant. A third shift operation back in 2019 will now become a single shift operation in spring of 2022. That means that 1,800 people will be laid off, and they'll be laid off permanently, according to Stellantis, making the announcement late this afternoon. They have given official notice to Unifor. The minivan plant now will be left with 2,600 people about working at that plant. Now, why is this happening? Because of the semiconductor shortage and the global pandemic. That semiconductor, we've been telling you these stories for most of the year, that fluctuation in shifts, people going into work for weeks, but then being off months at a time. They were just called back recently. Now, this is, we're told, a permanent situation that will start in the spring of 2022. We reached out to the company for comment. No one's speaking on the record. Unifor is saying that they will speak with the company this weekend and we'll have updates for employees. But that's how this breaks down in the immediacy here, Kat.
Now, Chris, as you said, this is difficult news for many in our community, and this is also coming on the heels of losing the third shift as well.
Yeah, that third shift was one that was told was going to be cut a couple of years ago. It wasn't until July of 2020 when that third shift was eliminated. Again, about 6,500 people worked here at one point. Now, there was hope, a silver lining in the collective agreement that was negotiated between then FCA, which became Stellantis, and Unifor. That was when they discussed a $1.5 billion investment that would be made at the Windsor Assembly Plant and would allow for the production of electric vehicles. And at the time, the head of Unifor nationally said that what would essentially happen with these new jobs that would come in would sort of level off what it was going to happen with the elimination of the third shift. Now, here we are learning that as of spring that will be down to a single shift. The company, again, reiterating that they are committed to those investments. We have reached out to Unifor for a comment. We have reached out to FCA or Stellantis. We've also reached out to the government, who have talked about investments as well. Again, all of this happening very quickly in the afternoon on a late Friday, and it does have a big impact for the ripple effects for Windsor Essex, those plants that feed into the Windsor Assembly Plant as well. And all of this happening as Windsor deals with one of the highest unemployment rates in all of Canada. Kat?
We're going to follow this very closely. Thanks, Chris. The CBC's Chris Ensing live tonight. And this news comes just after Stellantis also announced that it will be implementing a mandatory vaccine policy at the plant. And that's something that the head of the local union is also grappling with, calling it the most divisive issue he's ever dealt with during his tenure, and that he's heard from folks on both sides.
Our job as a union is to make sure that we protect everybody. You know, if people don't want to get vaccinated, that's your choice. And I don't want to mislead anybody, though, because with choices, sometimes there's consequences.
A representative for the company says that if workers don't get vaccinated, those consequences can be, quote, severe, including but not limited to termination of employment. And the company says exemptions will be handled on a case-by-case basis, and the deadline to be fully vaccinated is December 17th. Meanwhile, production of new gas-powered vehicles will be phased out starting in 2035. That means auto parts manufacturers that currently make parts for those kinds of cars are preparing for the changeover. Dale Molnar now on what it means for the industry.
We're working with our customers, the tier ones. They also are changing over their factories to support electrification, and we're looking for some new customers.
David Ulrich is the general manager of KB Components Canada. He says that's what they're doing to prepare for the electric vehicle revolution. His Windsor plant produces plastic parts for gas tanks, something that won't be in much demand when automakers stop building gasoline-powered vehicles. But Ulrich says they have the plastic injection equipment, so there will still be plenty of parts they can make for electric vehicles.
Any vehicle is going to require plastic components, either for the front-end module system, the interior for handles, brackets, headrest, radio bezels. There's still going to be components in the hood.
Ulrich said they already have the plastic injection equipment, and when they do switch over, it will actually create more jobs.
I could see our employment going up 15-20%.
We've pushed this pedal to the floor.
Stellantis recently unveiled plans for some brands of electric vehicles to be produced in 2024, including an electric version of the Dodge Charger. Automotive journalist Kay Lane expects an electric vehicle will be produced at the Windsor Assembly Plant. She also expects any parts manufacturers currently making parts just for internal combustion vehicles will have to pivot or die.
There's still going to be gas engines for the next little while, but I do see us slowly pivoting over.
Automotive Parts Manufacturers Association President Flavio Volpe says many parts manufacturers are working to make the change.
There's time. This is not going to happen tomorrow, but you better be ready for you to be disrupted in your next program, which may be in 2 years or 5 years or 7 years.
Volpe says Porsche is also working on a synthetic fuel for gas-powered cars that will be 95% carbon-free on combustion. But he says governments also have to collaborate to prepare the new infrastructure to support electric vehicles.
There's gas stations all over the place. So driver behaviors. Drivers show up and fill up at gas stations. Is that where we put chargers? How are we going to help the mining sector and the auto sector come together in processing for battery cells?
Volpe says there will still be an aftermarket demand for parts for gasoline-powered vehicles that will still be on the road many years after 2035. Dale Molnar, CBC News, Windsor.
We turn now to the border. A date has been set. The U.S. land crossing will open to fully vaccinated travelers starting November 8th. While the Biden administration has now offered up that date, a lack of clarity remains on whether people who receive doses of 2 different vaccines will be considered fully vaccinated. Those details are still being worked out by the U.S. Centers for Disease Control. Close to 4 million Canadians received mixed doses. And as we've reported before, Canada will still require a proof of a negative COVID-19 test upon re-entry that is less than 72 hours old. Windsor police are investigating a hit and run that has claimed the life of an elderly man. The fatal incident happened at around 7 a.m. on Jeanette Avenue near the corner of Elliott Street West. Parts of Jeanette Avenue and Elliott Street were closed while police were investigating. Grocery bags and a cart could be seen scattered onto the road where the incident happened. Police are asking residents in the area to check their surveillance cameras for any footage of the incident. Officials did not have a description of the suspect vehicle. Local agencies that provide mental health care say they need to do better when it comes to servicing immigrants, LGBTQ, and racialized youth. A new outreach program launched by Hotel Dieu Grace along with Maryvale Adolescent and Family Services aims to do just that. And part of the work will be helping people navigate the services available.
Aren't seeing the immigrant population that we know exists within Windsor Essex. We aren't seeing where there's an underrepresentation of racialized youth. There's an underrepresentation of our Francophone community, our Indigenous communities. And so we really had to take a look at what could we be doing differently to improve access to services. And so for many different reasons, there is probably resistance. There's barriers to having individuals come into a healthcare setting, be it the hospital or a community-based setting like the Regional Children's Center or in Maryvale. There's resistance. And so we needed to start to think about how can we deliver care differently? How can we go out into the community in an outreach type of thing and actually, meet people where they are?
The increased focus on connecting with people who face barriers in accessing mental health service is welcome news for Derek Bizo with Trans Wellness Ontario. Bizo says the help is needed.
We have people coming and looking for help all the time, it's regular, right? People, queer kids, trans kids keep being born and they keep looking for help because they're not getting it necessarily where they need it. And so we're getting calls weekly, daily, people looking for services, looking to access more services, looking to see what other services exist.
A vandalized Black History mural has now been restored. It's back up in Sandwich Town's Patterson Park. At the end of April, Windsor police investigated blue spray paint on parts of the mural. The artwork was taken down by the city this summer and retouched. Along with redoing parts that were vandalized, the artist also fixed some misspelt names and wrong dates. Though he was disappointed when the graffiti took place, he says he was happy to revisit the history. He also added a protective layer to prevent future damage.
I'm feeling good. Well, because it's not about me. It's not for me. A lot of people were really attached to this mural, and I had a lot of questions of where is it at, where it's been, and just to see it back up, I know there's going to be a lot of happy people. For protection, that's why we did the clear coat, so this if it happens again, it'll be an easier. You can clean it up a lot easier. We're just hoping that people will understand that. And this is something important to a lot of people. Just look, no touchy.
Each one of the 16 panels had parts redone, the artist says. The decade-old piece naturally faded from the weather. Windsor police say no one was charged following the vandalism investigation. We're seeing a growing number of COVID-19 outbreaks in Windsor Essex schools. 8 of them are active now, with 6 having started since Thanksgiving. The latest are at Colchester North Public School in Essex, Leamington District Secondary School, and Westgate Public School in Windsor. This as the health unit reports 43 new cases today and the death of a man in his 70s. Meanwhile, federal health officials provided an update today on Canada's COVID-19 situation. Chief Public Health Officer Dr. Theresa Tam says the 4th wave is peaking here, and overall virus activity is declining in many places across the country.
Although the virus continues to surge and present ongoing challenges in several areas of the country, overall, we're observing a decline in COVID-19 disease activity nationally. Over the past week, there were an average of over 3,160 new cases being reported daily across Canada, a decrease of 15% compared to the week prior. However, severe outcome trends remain elevated, with an average of more than 2,500 people with COVID-19 being treated in our hospitals each day, including over 750 in intensive care units, and an average of 40 deaths were reported daily. COVID-19 cases and hospitalizations are predominantly occurring among unvaccinated people. From end of August to late September, the average weekly rate of new COVID-19 cases was 8 times higher, while the average weekly rate of hospitalizations was 26 times higher in unvaccinated people than in fully vaccinated people.
A local publishing house has done something they did not think was possible. 3 of their books have been named Governor General's Literary Awards finalists. Palimpsest Press publisher Amy Dunn welcomed the news this week, saying she's thrilled for the authors whose work represents what her press aims to promote.
We publish stuff we love. We get to make those choices, especially Gord's book. I read that story and I was like, I love this story. People should read this story. And so we're not necessarily playing to what's marketable or, what will sell huge. We're able to actually be like, let's look for the stories that aren't told, the stories that haven't been told, or the stories that are just told in a unique manner.
That unique approach to storytelling is Sadiqa de Meyer's collection of essays and poems. It's been nominated under the nonfiction category. Nominated for poetry is The Junta of Happenstance, the debut work of Tolu Oloruntoba, who immigrated to British Columbia. Home Waltz is written by an author living in Kingsville, originally from Lytton, British Columbia. Gord Grisson-Tewait says it's a book about a young narrator navigating a wild 36 hours that hits on issues of consent, systemic racism, and body image. We spoke with him earlier today.
I'm the writer of Home Waltz, shortlisted for the Governor General's Award in fiction this year, and hell yeah, I'm stoked. The story kind of dictates what I will say and will not say. I refuse to be afraid to tell the story the way the story needs to be told. So I worried nobody would ever be interested in this book because of Me Too and cancel culture. It touches on some pretty sketchy aspects of human life, and I didn't shy away from it. It would have been a disservice to the story and to the characters. People who love the book absolutely love the narrator. His name is Mosquito Bob. That's the anglicized version of his name. I'll probably mess up the pronunciation. I'm still learning in Inkaklamokchin. I'll probably be learning it till I die. Is Quoquishk, I think is mosquito in Inkaklamokchin. Close. So, Skeeto. Going through this process, I've started to reconnect with family and piece together that side of the history. And learning the language has gotten me in touch with language keepers. And because I'm using the language freely in my work, I'm inadvertently helping promote the language, promote language teaching, and bringing a little pride into the community.
A live look outside there. You can already see those conditions worsening. We're expected to get a lot of rain tonight, 20 to 40 millimeters. Environment Canada says it's not going to be severe, but it is going to be very wet. So Colette Kennedy is going to be here right after the break. She'll talk us through what we can expect tonight and into the weekend. Stay with us. Colette Kennedy, we just took a look at our tower cam, and it is not a pretty sight right now.
Yeah, we've got some gloomy skies out there. Yeah, definitely some wetter weather and even some severe cells that are east of us, but still, like, looking at some strong thunderstorms, which is, okay, the conditions are there, but it is the timing. I mean, come on, it's mid-October, but still, that's the kind of activity that we have when you've got some cooler, drier air pushing into an area where we've had such warmth and some humidity too. So we do have this special weather statement. That's for the rainfall amounts that we'll be seeing, most of it tonight into early tomorrow. The temperature reset, yeah, our temperatures come down, but it's kind of short-lived because work week or school week, however you look at it, at the beginning of next week, they're going to start to move in the other direction. Now, the areas in green, so that includes southwestern Ontario, that's where we're talking about the potential for the heavy rain. But you see these amounts, 30 to 40, with some areas getting 50 millimeters. You know, most of that, it's looking like now with the timing, the system is kind of pushing further south. So I think it's going to be into eastern Ontario, perhaps kind of tagging through the Niagara region, but we're not going to see amounts as heavy, other than with locally when you get a little downpour with some of the storms. We're just not going to see those amounts. But severe thunderstorm warning here, severe thunderstorm watch. It's been a little while. I haven't had to say those phrases, and that's because of some of the stronger thunderstorm activity there. So look at our current temperature now, and then look at the humidex value. When you think of that, it's like only around 16, 17. So it's really not only knocked those temperatures down, but as this system has moved through, just look how it's kind of had an impact too on the feel of the air. So some heavier downpours. You see all the lightning strikes there. Then we get a bit of a break. It's coming in waves, so don't think, okay, yeah, it's winding down now. The radar tells a very different story. And not only that, you know, yesterday I was kind of showing you the jet stream and the pattern there, that's a steering current for some of these storms. So it's got all this moisture, what's left over from what was Hurricane Pamela. It's got all of that to work with. So more waves coming in overnight and into tomorrow morning. Tomorrow afternoon, still some scattered showers, although I think we'll begin to see sunny breaks. And then once this passes through, there'll be lake effect stuff to the east of us, but we're not going to be dealing with that back here into southwestern Ontario. In fact, we'll be dealing with some sun coming on through, so things will be looking much better. And see how much lower those amounts are looking now when I look at the model projections. Some cooler nights, yeah, so a little cooler on Sunday, and then look at those temperatures. Boom, going right back up again.
Okay, we were talking over the break how lucky we are in Windsor because that forecast looks incredible. Getting a storm and then it opens right up.
It's amazing. It really is. Just stay off the roads or take it easy tonight and tomorrow morning, and then we'll be good.
Absolutely. Thanks, Colette.
You're welcome.
Now, right after the break, we've got a story that might blow you away because of how much folks are piping up about an Ontario bagpiper. Is that punny enough for you? Find out when we come back. Home sales in Canada were up slightly in September compared to August, but were down notably from a year ago. The Canadian Real Estate Association says nearly 49,000 properties changed hands in September, an increase of almost 1% from August. That number is down more than 17% from September of 2020, which saw an all-time record for the month. The national average price for a home in Canada topped $686,000 last month, up almost 14% from September a year ago. When you blow your own horn, you have to expect that some people aren't going to like it. A bagpiper in Southern Ontario has learned that firsthand. As much as his daily pandemic piping is a hit with many of his neighbors, some find his COVID concerts cringeworthy, and they're piping up about it. CBC's Hala Goname has the story.
Peter Hummel, also known as Peter Piper, plays the pipes almost every day in the Southern Ontario town of Fergus.
I am a firm believer in support and frontline workers. The purpose for me was to gather support for them.
The town isn't shy about its Scottish roots. And now Peter has become a staple with his evening shows.
Since Pete's been playing, it's brought us together, and we've
one big family.
Yeah, we're one big family now.
The intent was to spread joy, but it turns out some neighbors would rather not hear the pipes.
I can't watch TV. I have to close the windows.
This neighbor says that in fact, it's the backyard practices that are the most disruptive.
Nothing against bagpipes if you want to play them, but respect your neighbors.
Splinter is one of two neighbors who told CBC News they filed formal noise complaints.
Started to get lots of vulgarity, lots of swearing, air horns going off, quasi-threats about, where the bagpipes could go.
I've sworn at him a few times. That's just out of frustration because he wouldn't quit. I'm sorry for doing that, but I mean, if he wants to be ignorant, then I'll be ignorant back.
With the help of a friend, Peter had this lawn sign made. More than 85 were sold for charity throughout the region.
Everyone knows piping isn't a crime.
Peter says he received a total of 5 visits from provincial police and regional bylaw informing him of noise complaints. He was told he wasn't breaking any rules.
You're not allowed to do noises that might impact your neighbors after 9 o'clock. But at 7 o'clock, there is no real bylaw.
So I kind of said, I'm not going to stop doing this till the pandemic's over. I'm still doing it.
Peter has since toned down the outdoor practice time, and the complaints have stopped for now. Hala Goname, CBC News, Fergus, Ontario.
That's it for CBC Windsor News. Now, earlier tonight, we told you about changes at Stellantis, that the Windsor Assembly Plant is going to be moving down to one shift starting next year. We're going to have the latest on that on our website, so you can go there for more, cbc.ca/Windsor. Thanks so much for watching. Have a great night and a great weekend.